Hello, everyone, and we are live on Zoom and on Facebook. Welcome to our first attendees. Thanks for joining on time. My name is Georgi, and today we have a special webinar one of the subject webinars from our subject webinar series. So it's exclusive webinar for those who are interested in studying in Germany, studying bioinformatics and bioengineering in Germany, and especially for those who also would like to learn more about bachelor level programs in Germany, because we have received many times this message also to focus a little bit more on bachelor level. So here is our response to you, one of our responses. So yeah, we have exclusive webinar today, and we have our special guest from one of the German universities. I will introduce him shortly and introduce the program that our guest will present. But before that, yeah, my name is Georgi, and I will be today the moderator of this webinar, and I will be the person who will be answering your questions in the Q&A section. Throughout the webinar, you can already start sending out your questions in the Q&A, and I would also suggest you to keep an eye on the chat. Although you cannot use it, but I will be sending you some interesting links that will be useful for you. Of course, they are relevant to the program. Okay, so let me jump into my presentation before our guest starts and tell you a little bit about MyGermanUniversity. So, yeah. MyGermanUniversity is Germany's largest database of English study programs. If you go to our webpage of mygermanuniversity.com, you will be able to find over 2,300 programs, both bachelor and master programs taught in English. And also we have now, in addition, you can also find now short courses and language courses in Germany. And you can see it also, this excerpt of our study finder on the slide. And when you go to the larger version, you can see all its filters and all the programs which are available there. About MyGermanUniversity, also our mission generally, to put it really simply, is to help international students like you on their way to study in Germany. And yeah, study finder is one of the ways actually to do that. So because it's really useful for those who have some difficulties to find exactly the best fitting program for them. And study finder really helps you a lot to narrow down your search and to find really the best program for you in terms of your considering your background, your interests, etc. The second way of helping you, dear friends, are our articles. So we have over 70 comprehensive articles that you can also find on our webpage, and the topics are quite different. We talk about scholarship, we write about scholarships, we write about UNIASIS, for example, or about visa procedures, about language requirements, and yeah, all of these important topics when it comes to studying in Germany. And I would also strongly encourage you to go through the articles and to find the interesting ones for you. And the third way of helping you is the one that we are employing right now. So these are the webinars. We have approximately 150 webinars per year. And this webinar also topics are really different. So we talk about scholarships in Germany, also visa application strategies, generally about all the topics, really basic information about studying in Germany or COVID-19. Unfortunately, we have to talk still about that. So, and of course, subjects. We have different subject webinars like today's one. And we have special guests like today from German universities where you can ask your questions directly to the representatives of the programs and get the best possible answers from them, which I strongly encourage you to use. And we are based in Hamburg, in Germany, but our team is quite international. We are not based only in Germany. We have people all around the world. And also within Germany, we are not based only in Hamburg. We are in different cities as well, as different cities and towns. And we counsel in different languages, ranging from English to Georgian. And you can see the list of the languages on the slide as well. Okay. So let me introduce to you our webinar agenda for today. As I said, today we have exclusive webinar for the Rhine-Waal University of Applied Sciences, and we have our guest, Professor Dr. Neil Shirtcliffe, who will be talking about biomaterial science. This is a bachelor level program, as I said, and before he starts, I will take just 2 or 3 more minutes to tell you some interesting things that I think that it will be useful for you, dear guests. So, when it comes to Germany, I would say there are 2 databases that you should know about. The first database is Hochschulkompass, and this would be your stop if you are more interested in German taught study programs. So if you go to Hochschulkompass and try to find programs related to bioinformatics and bioengineering, you will be able to find 192 programs, and only 30 of them will be in English. But if you go to MyGermanUniversity, there you will be able to find 49 programs in English for bioinformatics and bioengineering. And 3 of them will be Bachelor, and all 3 will be English only, and 46 will be Master, and 37 of them will be English only. And by English only, it means that you don't need any German or knowledge of any other language. So yeah, this I would say that in case you are more interested in English taught study programs in Germany, then MyGermanUniversity and its study finder should be your stop. For those who are not sure, for example, about how studying bioengineering looks like in Germany, what is it about, what you would expect, then I would also strongly suggest you to visit our subject page. So we have subject page for every subject, and bioengineering is not an exception. So when you go to our subject page, you will be able to find really useful general information about, for example, the rankings of universities that are offering these program in this field, or tuition fees of these programs in general. What is the range? What are the generally application admission requirements that you usually will need to satisfy, and also language requirements, of course. So I will send this link shortly in the chat as well. But yeah, subject pages are really useful for those who want to have an idea of what it looks like, for example, in this case, bioengineering, how it looks like to study it in Germany. So our pro tip would be, of course, that you should find the right university profile and study program for you. But we strongly recommend that you shouldn't be guided only by, for example, by quantitative metrics like rankings, for example. So because not always the highly ranked universities, highly ranked programs in this international, well-known international rankings will be the ones that you are really searching for, because these rankings, of course, the universities in these rankings and the programs are really nice, but these rankings do not always and very often do not capture actually the need of each individual, you know. So there are some more details that are more important to you but are not captured in the rankings, and that's why this or that program is not in that ranking, is not in top 100, for example. But doesn't mean that this program is bad. Actually, in Germany, there are lots of great and really high quality programs in various towns, in various cities of Germany, and yeah, also not only in Berlin or Munich you can find good programs, but in all around Germany. So this is our would be our tip while you're searching for programs. And last but not least, so there are two types of universities I want you to know about. One of the takeaways from today. So first type is Universität, and if you go to our study finder, you can control for that also. For example, you can find bioengineering programs that are offered only by this type of university. You can do that, and if you try to do that, you will be able to find 21 programs in this subject. And the second type of university is University of Applied Sciences. So our guest is from University of Applied Sciences. And in this case, you also be able to find on our study finder 21 programs related to this subject that are offered by this type of university. Of course, question arises then, what is really difference between university and University of Applied Sciences? When I came to Germany, I also, before I came, I also didn't know, but when you research a bit more, you will understand it better. But for now, I want you to know only these things, that one of the most important differences is in focus. So when it comes to Universität, then the focus is more on research and theory in general. But when it comes to University of Applied Sciences, here it comes more into application, into practical experience. So this is what I want you to know about the main difference between them. And yeah, last suggestion, and I'll finalize with that. So again, regarding when you're searching for programs, also do not be really strict when you are in terms of wording. So for example, you are interested maybe in bioengineering, but when you type in bioengineering in our study finder, for example, so that not to miss programs like microsystems engineering or biofabrication, biotechnology. This may be also exactly those programs that are fitting you the best, for example, depending on your interests and background. So what I would like to suggest also to play around a little bit with words while you are searching for a program and not to be really strict. Okay, so again, back to our special guest, Professor Dr. Shirtcliffe. So you can, as we said, he's from Rhine-Waal University of Applied Sciences. You can see the location. For those who know more or less Germany well, it's not far, really close to Düsseldorf, and really close also to Belgium and Netherlands. Really nice location. So yeah, and the program we presented today, as I said, is a biomaterial science, and this is a Bachelor of Science level. So I will stop here and invite Professor to the floor, and I will go back to the Q&A section.
Sorry, I'll try to switch to my presentation now. I'll just try and make sure I get the right page. Oh, that's the right page.
Yeah, great.
And I've got to switch to the right application. And then I can change screen, so everything's working. Just to pick up from the introduction there are a couple of housekeeping things, I guess, that I should cover. So to start with, we are a new university. Rhine-Waal is a new university built in 2011. So we started in 2009, but the campus was finished in 2011. And so we don't really feature in ranking systems because we just haven't been added to them yet. We are a University of Applied Sciences, and I would disagree with the statement that was given. There isn't really very much of a difference anymore. Nominally, there used to be a difference, but there was a kind of change with a EU agreement that all degrees are worth the same. So all bachelors are worth the same, and you can join a master's degree from any bachelor that's inside Europe. So inside Europe, you can join any other European master that qualifies you to do so. And I was going to mention bioengineering because my colleagues have a bioengineering degree as well. So I'll try to remember to mention them every now and then. They're in a different faculty, but we work together quite well because very often our students from biomaterials science switch to bioengineering and vice versa, because some people decide they want to do more biology and some people decide they want to do more engineering or materials. Anyway, let's get on to this obligatory picture of our campus, which is taken in the sun and on a nice day. We're in a quiet area of Germany, which makes the cost of living comparatively low, although obviously everybody's take on that will vary because you will come from different countries. But compared to big cities in Europe, it's comparatively cheap to live. It looks like all universities do, but it's kind of newer. And in our faculty, all of our courses are taught only in English. We do have language courses, and you can learn German, and all students are entitled to go and do a German course, but we don't force anybody to. The library is also almost exclusively in English as well. So that's this building that says Allgemein on the side is a grain storage that's now our library. Let me switch to this next one. So that's the same picture, same map, that's where we are. It shows you that our nearest city, well, it doesn't show our nearest city, which is actually Nijmegen, which is in Holland. It's easier to get to a Dutch town than it is to get to a German one. We are a small city or town of about 50,000 people, so our students obviously make a big difference to the population. And what you can't see here, well, you can kind of see here, it's relatively easy to get here to Kleve by air. You can land at Essen and Dortmund and Antwerp and several other Dutch places are really, Eindhoven places are really easy to fly to. But it's also a tiny place and quite rural, which means that we're sort of a mixture of easy to get to and quiet. I said always put the same thing in twice, but anyway. So this is our faculty. Our faculty is called Technology and Bionics. We're one of the unusual degrees there here because we are more sciencey. It's effectively an engineering faculty. That's why I put chemistry labs not shown, because our biomaterial science students don't really do any of these activities, or not very much. They can, but their normal focus is more chemistry and biology. So these are sort of marketing pictures of our faculty. Let's get on to our actual course. So our actual course is called Biomaterials Science. We have what is the longer period for a bachelor. In the European system, you can either have 6 or 7 semesters. So ours is a half a year longer than some. That means that our master's is shorter. That's the average period. Because we're in Germany, it is possible to continue to extend that by taking subjects later. There is obviously a limit, but you can choose to extend it. The qualification is a B.Sc, and you can start in the winter term, which is fairly normal. As it says, it's in English, and like many courses in Germany, and particularly in these applied science universities, there is an internship, which means working in a job somewhere, but that doesn't have to happen until the beginning of semester 4. So ideally, somewhere in the holidays, you do an internship, and it's only 8 weeks. And then there's another internship or work experience in a later semester, but that can be switched with a visit to another university. You're allowed to take a semester at another university, and that counts as well. And then we have a bachelor thesis as well, which we in the German system are not allowed to call honors for strange historical reasons that I don't understand. This is my logo. You can see sort of on my fake image behind me. Biomaterials we see, because it's not very well defined in English. So in England, biomaterials means implants and nothing else. But in Germany, it means a more biodegradable materials. So we've defined it for ourselves as these 4 things: implant materials, biodegradable materials, bio-derived materials, which are often not the same thing, and things that have a similar structure to biological materials, which are called bio-inspired. Particularly for biomaterial science, it is effectively a classical materials science degree, but with an interface to biological systems, which would include recycling, natural-based materials, biocompatible materials, as mentioned earlier. The classical materials science is a mixture anyway already of chemistry and engineering. And as I put, focus varies, so you can choose to focus more on engineering or more on science. This is a different way of drawing it. So as you can see already, we're going to have to be an interdisciplinary subject between chemistry and engineering, but now we've added biomaterials to it. And because it's a modern degree program, all engineering and science programs always have a little bit of management in there too, because the modern workplace requires a little bit of management. We have comparatively much lab work, so relatively many lab hours compared to other courses. And as I was trying to start explaining, but I remembered that this form was coming up, you can select with things that are called electives or focus fields. So you can choose to do some courses and instead of others. So you can do for example, an analytical course of materials, which is run by an external company, or you can look at the surfaces of implants instead. Then you can focus more on biology or more on engineering, and that is up to you as a student, because we know that our students are comparatively young and haven't decided yet necessarily. There's a project which you can also decide how to define it. You can choose your own project. You have your internship at some place of work or in another university, and you have the bachelor thesis, which is a longer project right at the end, which gives you the potential to focus on many different areas, between chemistry and materials, biology, and you can decide what you want to do. There are a few examples down there, and that is what our students end up doing. It does mean that you have to define it for yourself. It means you have to sell yourself a little bit more than students in courses where it's clear what they're going to do, but it gives you more potential to redefine yourself if you decide that something else is more exciting to you. I pressed a button. I don't know what happened. Ah, yes, we are adding biology to the triangle. The triangle up here. Oops, I can't point to it because you don't see what I see. The triangle on the screen is engineering, physics, and chemistry, which feed into material science. And if we add biology as another point and make it into a pyramid, it's effectively our biomaterial science, with the biology interacting with chemistry and physics, not so much with engineering. I've just put a quick course content because I ended up ending very quickly last time, so I just added what we do. We have a relatively standard introduction to material science, which means not doing very much material science at all in the first semester: maths, physics, chemistry, programming, some management. And you'll see the theme carries on. There's a lot of natural science and engineering courses, and then a management course pretty much every semester. As we go through, it gets more and more directly applied to biomaterials. And so you can see in the 5th semester, we've got biocompatible materials, tailored materials and surfaces, and project and focus field, which is there's going to be subjects directly related to biomaterials in one or other form. And then at the end, we've got these semester abroad and bachelor theses. So just to remind you, we have our 4 things. We've got biocompatible materials, which would be implants. They could be metals, for example, like these metallic bone implants. They could be polymers, like contact lenses. And they could also be ceramic materials, like that probably is the grinding plate on a knee joint implant. Those different materials have to interact with each other and also with the body and not do anything bad. We've got bio-based materials, where we would make polymers out of biological materials, or we would extract materials from natural sources to use. In this case, this slide is supposed to show making a polymer out of potato starch. It's not only potato starch, but a large proportion of it is potato starch. Biodegradable materials are obviously materials that can degrade in the environment, and those are separated, or we carefully separate them, because you can make biodegradable materials out of oil, and you can make bio-based materials that are exactly like polypropylene, for example. Biomimetic materials are like biology, so we can ask questions like, why is wood good in one direction? Why is it strong in one direction and weak in another? Why is bone tougher than pottery? Why are shells better against chemical and mechanical damage than just rock? And we can try to copy it. So there are a few pictures of the microstructure of wood, where there are fibers running in one direction and pores. Compact bone, where we've got a mixture of collagen, which is protein, so it's polymer fiber, and the hydroxyapatite, the ceramic of the bone, and nacre is a shell. It's mother of pearl. And all of them have particular structures that are interesting and we can copy. We don't have to make them out of the same stuff. This is just saying, okay, what do we do? So we start with classical material science, and then we go a little bit further. So classically, you might do injection molding and make stuff. More innovative approaches would be lightweight construction, nanotechnology, printing, and different types of analysis. What happens when you finish? Nominally, in Germany, all of our degrees, so also other ones, the bachelor is supposed to qualify you for work. So that's what the little orange arrow is here, saying you can work. And locally, as in the state, there are quite a lot of materials jobs because it's an industrial area. You don't, however, have to go in one direction or the other. So we've got materials or chemistry or medicine to choose from, and that gives us quite a lot of possibilities. The area is quite rural, so we don't have a huge company that we can send all of our students to, but there are quite a lot of medium-sized companies which do employ people. We've got so spectro and Ipsoning in our actual town, making spectrometers and high temperature ovens for making hardened parts. So we've also got two masters, the Master Bionics, which has a side in it. Our masters is divided into two. It's divided into a robotics part, which we don't really qualify our students for in biomaterials, but we also have a materials part, which is the logical continuation of our biomaterials degree. You don't have to do it. You can go to another master's in another place, and many of our students continue into a master's in a different university. Oh, I've got out of the program specific thing, so into less specific things. So this is just a bit of general information because you probably need to know these things. But this also includes bioengineering, which is in life science, our neighboring faculty. All of our degrees, all of our bachelors normally start in the winter term, and there is a deadline. So it opens in May and usually closes sometime in August. In order to qualify, you have to have a nominal qualification, which may have some requirements. So in this case, it may mean you have to do some university courses in your home country, depending on how much school you have. It's not special to us, it's general for the whole of the EU, it's a general requirement. In our case, we require you to be able to speak English. Our European students have to just show that they've finished school. Our students in countries where the language is English just have to show that they learned in English, and otherwise you have to provide some proof. It's not a very high level proof, but you do have to provide it. The application process is via this UniAssist, which we don't control. It's an external company. If you apply via UniAssist, you can use that to apply to us and to other universities at the same time, and then choose when the results come. That's obviously quite positive to you. I think it costs some money, so be aware of that. It's not very difficult to do, and they do some of the paperwork for us. Onto the money question, because it was mentioned, we don't have tuition fees at all. You do have to pay money, however. It's about €300 per semester, and it gives you a free ticket to travel on the train to anywhere inside the state, and you can nearly get to the nearest town, which is in Holland. You have to pay the last little bit because it's not in German. It also gives you a contribution to the student union, effectively, and membership of the university sports, so you can get cheap sports. Also pay social services, which really comes back. It's €300 per semester. That's not the main cost, obviously. Accommodation is going to be the main cost. We have some student dormitories, but they quickly get filled up. Most students live in flats. That does take a little while to organize. There is a nice place to look for it. It's good if you give it plenty of time beforehand, so it's always advisable to find places in advance, otherwise you might end up quite far away. These are average costs for Germany. We are probably lower because we're quite rural, so I don't know where this number comes from, but that includes food and rent and all kinds of things. So it obviously doesn't include drinking a lot or spending large amounts of money, but it's kind of average. Ooh, that jumped up very quickly. Oh, it kicked me right out. Hang on. Let me get back into this one. Try that. It won't let me out now. I wanted to get back to the list. There it is, list of course content or something like that, so that there was something to show. Have I done it too fast? I've done it too fast again. Sorry for being too fast. I'll just do a quick introduction of the other course if nobody's jumping back in to stop me. Let me stop the share so you don't have to look at my background. The other courses that we have are obviously in our faculty are classical engineering courses, but the one of interest to you, because you come here out of interest for biology, engineering related subjects, the other course of interest to you would be bioengineering, which is run in the neighboring faculty, that is also taught exclusively in English. And they consider bioengineering to be making organisms do things that you want, mostly. They also do include a little bit of engineering in that. So things like medical devices. Their course has a lot more German students on it than ours does. Our course is made up about a third international students, a third German students, and a third European students, although the values vary quite a lot. We also have a good balance, a healthy balance of gender in both courses. Although in bioengineering it's a little bit more unbalanced. Ours is almost exactly 50%. What else do I want to say this up? So the bioengineering course is right next door. It's in one of the other buildings. We interact fairly much. We often share teaching staff, and that means that it's comparatively easy to join one course and then change your mind and go to another one. So it's easy to do that. You can change to another university, of course, but it's a lot easier to take courses with you if it's inside the same university. What else did I want to say? Nothing about that. The University of Applied Science thing, maybe I should mention that again, is sometimes important. In our case, we are somewhere in between, so we're not very applied. We're not really focused on practical things. I'm much more interested in theoretical things. So we are somewhere in the middle. Previously, and you may hear from other people, it was difficult to get into a master in a university. That's often the case, or it often used to be the case in the past, but that has been reducing over time, and there are relatively few students on master's courses, so it is comparatively easy to get one. Our biomaterial science students, for example, very few of them go on to our masters, but nearly all of them have got onto a master's course, the ones that wanted to, and most of them wanted to. That's just how it works out. It's that. The other main difference is that we don't have very many PhD students. I did have one. He should be finishing next week. So we have comparatively few PhD students compared to a university. Sorry, I'm not looking at the camera. The universities have more PhD students per professor. The other thing that you should hear about universities of applied sciences, what they're supposed to be, is we have a higher ratio of staff to students, so we can look after you better. It's also not quite as true as it once was. We are also under pressure to have quite a lot of students, but particularly in biomaterial science, we don't have that problem. We have about 15 to 30 students, and there are two of us, the course leaders, pretty much only on this course, and 3 or 4 other staff who work mostly on the course. So we have a pretty good staff to student ratio. Compare that to a university where it's usually 300 in a year. Okay, I don't want to leave, but I'll check because there's some questions. I think something is up in the chat, so I'll have a look in there, see whether anything exciting is going on.
So Yeah, we can already switch to the Q&A session. So first of all, thank you very much for the presentation, for all the important details that you presented about this program and also for the introduction to the other programs. And yeah, we can jump into the Q&A because we have some questions here, quite a lot, and also some from Facebook. I will suggest to start with the first one. So I'll read it out. Considering the degree in bioengineering and biomaterial science is completely taught in English, how does this affect the prospect of being employed in Germany, considering you will not have learned the material of the degree in German?
That's an interesting question that I don't really, well, so I know the answer in several ways. I'll start with one. So as a little story, I'm sorry about this, but I know professors tend to do this. Students do find it difficult to get a job, but not ours. So it's a specific, it is specifically difficult to get a job if you don't speak German in a machine shop. So our mech-eng students find it very difficult to get an internship. Bioengineering students also don't have a problem. Biomaterial students never have problems. I say never, but it's probably, obviously they will. I have phoned up a few companies in my experience, and the only thing they ever say is, we don't mind if the student speaks English. We don't mind if the student doesn't speak German, but they must speak English. One of the bigger employers like BASF and P&G, Procter & Gamble, I phoned them up and asked them, and they said, no, we don't really care. But if you're in a team with international people, maybe some people from Spain, there is a requirement that you can speak to them, and that happens in English in Europe. So unfortunately, I get lucky with being English. I can use my English advantage. I don't have to speak in German very much. There are obviously issues because we're in a rural area, so shopping is a challenge if you don't speak any German at all. The local people obviously are forced to get a little bit better because we've got 5,000 students wandering around, and some of them don't speak any German at all. For the longer future, yes, it would be advisable to learn some German if you intend to stay in Germany. And we do offer language courses for that you don't have to pay for as a student, as our students. But it's not strictly necessary. You can also go straight into Holland, and 90% of work in Holland is also carried out in English. It's a bit complicated, but it depends on the level. So obviously, if you were going to go and learn how to do tiling or plastering or something, then they would expect you to speak German. But in a science lab, it's different.
Yeah, totally agree, because I also came to Germany as an international student, not knowing German, I mean, low level. But you need it in the shops especially, and in everyday life. So, and then of course it's always a good add-on if you speak German. So let's switch to another question. So Professor, you mentioned about internship, and so there's a question about internships. So the question is, does the university help with finding internships actually?
That's always a contentious point. So nominally, yes, is the answer. However, you'll find this with all German universities, because you don't pay. So our students don't pay. There isn't nearly as much money in the system as there is in some other countries. So it depends what you're comparing with. And so I, as an English person, and American people would say, no, we don't offer very much support at all. And it's because there isn't so much money. If you're paying $60,000 to do a degree, then obviously the university has money to provide support for things like that. We do provide support, but it's not at that high level, obviously. There is a limited amount of support. We try. the best we can. So the positive examples are we have an international office in the faculty, which is only 2 people. So again, it's not huge. And they have contacts with certain universities and will help you to get an exchange with them. If you want to make a new one, that's a little bit more challenging because we can't help everybody to do that. Getting an internship with a company, the first internship we don't help very much with because it's supposed to be done before you start. The system believes that students do it before they start. We, as a university, because we only teach, because our faculty only teaches in English. There are some German language courses in the university, but mostly English. Because our faculty only teaches in English, we have to live with the fact that most people turn up and haven't done it yet. And so that's why you get, or our students all get, till the 4th semester, till the start of the 4th semester to do that. But it's 8 weeks and it doesn't have to be all in the same company. It doesn't have to be contiguous. So if you get 2 weeks during a holiday, it's fine. Again, we as a course, Biomaterials, so I'm using we in different ways, but the Biomaterials staff, we are generous with how we define it, because as you hopefully will have noticed, is incredibly interdisciplinary. So an internship for us would mean working in a company that maybe has something to do with chemistry, or maybe with medicine, or maybe with physics. We really don't mind. The idea is just to interact with business. The mechanical engineering bachelor's has a requirement that says, oh yeah, you have to learn some abilities for it, which is okay because the local companies know what to do with that. But for biomaterials, we don't have that. We also accept internships in other countries. We're not so worried about that. So the answer is not super much, but we do offer. And we have the international exchange is comparatively okay. So not only in your final semester, but also in any other semester, you are allowed to switch a semester of another university. We're a member of the Erasmus, and that means you can get paid to do it. Yeah, you don't get rich, but they pay the accommodation effect. And that's quite nice. It's quite a nice exchange for anyone to do.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
That was much the answer.
Yeah, another question is a little bit about background. So, is it possible for a master's holder to apply for this program, as I have different Bachelor in Science and Master in Science backgrounds?
That's a question that I'm not sure about the answer to. I think you can. So I think it is possible to, but I don't know the answer to that. I can't imagine why not. So that wouldn't be one of our internal rules. It would be an external rule if there is a rule against it. I do know that Germany as a whole had a problem with students never leaving university, so just joining a course and never finishing. So they did invent some rules to try to prevent that. But we do have a number of students that do several degrees. So multiple degrees is definitely an entirely allowed thing in Germany, and there appears to be no problem with it. We have students who take 2 degrees at the same time nominally, because there is because you can take longer than the official time, so you could effectively take 1.5 times as long and do 2 degrees at the same time. Mm-hmm. And you can transfer reasonable amounts of the material, not very, but reasonable amounts. It's hard to tell. I'm not sure I would recommend it, but obviously if you really don't get on with the subject that you've become qualified in, or you decide that your qualifications don't work, or many people from, depending on which country you're from, may find it's difficult to get that qualification ratified in Europe. That's luckily not my problem, because I'm not doing that. I don't make that decision. because it's very sad when it happens, and it seems quite arbitrary. And so I'm sorry if that has happened to you, because I can't do anything about it. But you can probably join, yes. But I can't say definitely because I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. Thank you very much for that. Joseph asks, in one of the slides, it said, easier job market than chemistry, when talking about what to do after the degree. Can you explain what that means?
So I can. I like that question because I meant to say that. So that was one of the things that I intended to say at the time. So there is a complex issue, which means that it's hard for me to tell our students, to advise our students what to do. And that's because our students don't all stay in Germany or go to a small number of countries. Some of them go back home and some of them go on to a third country. Inside Germany and also the UK, the subject chemistry is comparatively difficult to get a job in. And there are obviously both reasons for that. We make too many and there aren't that many jobs. So it's a competitive market. If I want to employ a lab technician, I can employ a lab technician with a PhD in chemistry. If I want to employ a lab technician in electronics engineering, I will struggle to even get anyone because they get paid too much outside. You can't get them out of the work market. But chemists who are out of work are quite easy to find. That means that at this time and in this place, it's quite difficult to get a job in chemistry. It doesn't mean, however, that it won't change, because the jobs markets go up in waves. Effectively, what happens is that at the moment there are too many people who are qualified to be chemists and not enough jobs. Then students see this and don't study chemistry, and the companies notice this eventually and start paying more and more, and eventually there's a deficit in the other direction, and so they sort of wave slightly out of phase. So there will be a point where there are plenty of jobs and not enough students. What I was trying to write on that slide was the advantage of doing an interdisciplinary subject like biomaterials science is that when chemistry is difficult, you can be a materials scientist. And when materials science is not so easy to get a job in, you can be a chemist or a biologist. That was the reason for doing that. What you will find, however, because our students, because they've learned their subject in English and because they've already traveled, typically, or the ones here will have already traveled if they come to us, they're usually quite mobile compared to the average person who likes to stay at home. And so it is easy to imagine just going somewhere else and getting a job where the job market is better. So the possibilities are all there. You can go somewhere else where there are more chemistry jobs, and there's always somewhere like that. But you can also do something else in the meantime, or just switch to another subject. I come directly, so I did a chemistry degree, and I've ended up in materials for exactly that reason. There were just no jobs in chemistry. But it was the time and place that I was in, and that can change.
Yeah, thank you very much. Then comes I would say, quite broad question, more or less. So, person asks, what is the difference between bioinformatics and biomaterials?
Everything. That's difficult for me to answer because I haven't done bioinformatics.
Yeah.
But if we consider them at their extreme, biomaterials would be looking at materials. It would be a material science degree with something to do with biology, because we're one of the few that do it. Our take on it is that we have biodegradable materials and implant materials, and the other two. So we mostly focus on implant materials and reaction with biology. Bioinformatics is more about more aligned to biology. So if I take the course in bioinformatics that was in my previous university, that was taught in biology, in the biology department, and it's about computing. It's about extracting data from a huge data set. If, for example, we have a new disease called corona and we extract the protein from it and we want to find out what the sequence is, you go and see a bioinformatics person. And so the informatics is computing effectively, or data handling. It's using a massive amount of data, which you typically get in biology, and extracting something important from it. So a bioinformatics degree will contain biology and computing, and our course contains chemistry and material science and a bit of biology. So we're on a different corner of biology, effectively. I hope that makes sense. It's because bioinformatics, to me, is a completely different subject. So I don't really understand how one could get confused. But both of them are poorly defined. We have to say that it's important. It's very easy to have a different idea of what is inside. So always, when looking at a course, not only ours but others, it is advisable to look at the curriculum to see what's really inside. Sometimes we used to have this problem. We've improved. Sometimes what's marketed isn't what's inside, and the easiest way to check is to look at the curriculum. It's hard to read a curriculum, but if you look in the last, so semester 4, 5, and 6 are probably the best semesters to look at. Then you can read the course names and see what's inside them, and just generally to see what kind of flavor does it have. Because all of these have this hidden thing about how much industry is it, how much research, how much engineering, how much science, which are not quite the same thing, but nearly. And every student has a preference. You might prefer to go into industry. You might really want to make a lot of money. You might want to do management of things, and it's useful to you to get a course that fills the thing that your need, if you have a clear need at the time. Obviously, most students don't know when they start, but see what's inside and get something that attracts you. I don't want to sell my course too much to people who don't want to do it. Obviously, it's bad if we have students who don't want to do it.
Thank you, Professor. Let us tackle a few more questions before we call it a day. So Yenna asks, I'm in South Africa and I'm completing my Cambridge A levels. My final results will only be available in August, but I do have 6 AS results and 1 A level result. Is this sufficient to apply?
Yeah. So if you have completed ones, then it's fine. We do have a problem. So it may be difficult to find one because of exactly that. Our timing is slightly out from the UK system, the UK A-level system. The results come out later. And obviously, if you're doing Cambridge A-levels, they will be on their time system. So you may find it difficult, which it's a problem in the system that we're struggling with. We're struggling to make it make sense. We're only allowed to accept it when it's actually an official result. As long as the official result comes in before the start, then it's fine, or before the number has to go into the assessment system. It sounds like it would be very, it sounds like it would be very close in timing, because our the close of application is August, but you can always add material afterwards. I will, if we have students who actually are in that position, then as course leader, I can take some kind of action. So there is a possibility to do things. I can't get everybody in, and we have to follow the rules because we are in Germany after all. But for things like that, where it's okay, the result will be here, it just won't be here today. Then we can start to make, we can start to at least fix the system, make it better. So it may be a challenge, but that's on making sure that the correct boxes get ticked in the application process is the challenge. Yeah, it's the systems don't always fit together, unfortunately. We don't have the opportunity to start in the other semester. I think there may be a few bachelor degrees that allow you to start in the other semester. It would be a massive headache for us because our course just isn't big enough to do that.
And the follow-up from the same person is the question about citizenship. So this person has dual citizenship, South African and German. Is there any advantage to applying with either one of them? So from my side, I would say, just as I remember you said, it is about UniAssist is working with international applications. So if you have a German citizenship, and maybe if you did studies in Germany, then you will need UniAssist. But yeah, I don't know exactly about your situation. Yeah, and Professor would provide a more clear answer to that.
So in the application system, we have two types of students, really. There are students who completed their education in a European country, and students who didn't. There are no other students. So in that case, it doesn't actually matter what your personal nationality is. The system doesn't care. The system only cares where did you get your last degree. Notably and excitingly, that also applies to your bachelor. So if you do a bachelor with us and you go and apply to another German university, you count to them as a German student. Because internally, for the purposes of application, that's all that matters. All that matters is where did you get your last degree? Do we trust them, effectively? And there is a list. So both UniAssist and internally, there's a list of how to compare different qualifications from different countries with each other. It's an official European list. It's reasonably okay. It's not the best list, but it kind of works. For us, obviously, externally, we like students who are international. We like to add them to our collection, but it's not so important. And we have a lot of international students, so it wouldn't really get noticed so much with us as somewhere else. I think that's.
Then there's a question about admission process. So person asks, can you explain admission process? I want to make into this program because I'm interested in that.
So if you go to one of the course web pages, you can get to our admissions system, and it sort of explains it. Effectively, you get sent to UniAssist, who do a preliminary check. Effectively, they get rid of the candidates who don't have enough qualifications, or tell you, yes, you need to do another course at university, so you've got enough points to be able to join. So they kind of smooth that process out a little bit. And because it's general, it also means you haven't lost anything if you do that. Then it comes internally, but it's the same form. They just pass the same material back to us, and we assess it. It's not me. We also have an admissions office, and they just assess them and tell us at the end of the year, you've got 20 students. The international office or the student services are always open to inquiries. It's, as with any type of inquiry system, it's very good. It's good if you can come with a specific inquiry. So something that you actually need to know. They are quite open to discussion. So the system is mostly online. You go onto the web page. There's So it's probably not super easy to find, but you get onto the web page, you get onto the applications, and there are forms to fill in, and it tells you what you need to send, which is how to prove that you've got the right qualifications and how to prove that you've got enough English, which is obviously fairly individual to each person because it's kind of complicated. Is there anything else there? So without opening the application website, I'm not sure we can get much further than that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know whether that would help, but.
And then I would say let us tackle the last question for today, because you already answered quite a lot and in a comprehensive manner. So the question is about internships again. Are internships done in industry-based companies better or lab-based companies, downstream versus upstream?
Okay, this is where I usually make this. So I try to avoid making a student feel bad, but this is a typical question with a problem word, and the problem word in there, like biomaterials, is a problem word. The problem word is better. Students are always asking me, is engineering better than chemistry? Is engineering better than materials science? And the answer is, you have to define better first. So for the purposes of ticking the box, nobody cares. If the internship is a non-marked course, you need to tick the box, and so from the purposes of getting a degree, it makes no difference whatsoever. You tick the box and it's finished. The first internship is fairly irrelevant. The second one is more important because you might be able to use that to say to a company later on that you're applying to, yeah, I've worked in a similar industry before. Because obviously when you come straight out of university, you struggle with your CV, with having items on there. It doesn't last very long. Once you've got a job, you don't need that anymore. The thing that I think it's important for is trying things out. So my children at school, Germany is really keen on internships. So my children at school have to go to internships. It's a kind of a thing in Germany. To me, the big advantage of an internship is you test it out. So my biggest success with a student doing an internship is when they go to something they think they're going to like and they hate it. And then they come back and say, I hated that. I went to whatever, Max Planck, and did some research, and it was really boring. I just hated it, or I just couldn't understand what I was doing. I don't want to do that. It feels like a failure, but it's really a massive gain because you've learned something that you don't want to do. So try something, and if you don't like it, then you've got a very valuable piece of information. Obviously, people who want to go into industry would say industry based or machine shop based or whatever internships are better. But it's for the purpose that you want it for. If you want to go into academia, if you want to go into research, then a research one is what you should do and see what that is. That's why you're allowed to choose. It's why students are allowed to choose which one they do. I know it's a big challenge because you've got to both choose. You've got to both find it and you've got to choose what you want to do. And my hand's weirdly flickering in and out of existence. Sorry about that. So it is a challenge for our students to find something suitable, and very often they just eventually pick something. But it's whatever you do, it's a useful experience because it tells you something that you either like or you don't like. It gives you information about the workplace and how you're going to survive there. I think that's the best I can say. There isn't really a better. It's only better for what you want it for, and only you can know that. I can't help you there.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor. I would say let's stop it here because there are some questions that you already provided actually answers to them with other answers. So if I would suggest to students who have more questions about specifically this program or some other programs you talked about, I would suggest you, dear friends, to get in touch with the program representatives or with professor. You can find the contact details when you go to the webpage, to the home pages, and I already shared it in the chat, the homepage links. If you have any questions, other questions like generally about studying in Germany or some subjects in German, so of course you can always send these questions to us. So you can send these questions to info@mygermanuniversity.com, and we'll be happy to get back to it as soon as possible. Or you can alternatively also send your questions. For example, if Facebook is more convenient to you, you can also send us on Facebook, and we'll get back to it for sure. So for now, thank you very much for watching, for being with us. I enjoyed the webinar. Thanks, Professor, for your comprehensive presentation and really comprehensive answers to every question. So that does not happen really frequently, but you did it. So thank you very much. And yeah, for also it would be nice also to get some feedback from you, friends, about the webinar. The direct links to Facebook and Google are there. So just let us know what you like, maybe something you didn't like, and we'll work on that to make it better in the future. Yeah, for now, that's all I would say. Professor, if you, as long as you don't want to add something.
Just to say, so you can definitely write to me, and mine is on. I'm one of the course leaders, and the course leader of bioengineering is called Fensterler. He's the one who was at the last MyGermanUniversity thing. So I'll just make him responsible for answering those questions. He's fine. He'll answer your questions. It's a good person to contact. I don't know who the other one is.
Great. Thank you very much. And thanks everyone again for joining and staying with us until the end. And have a nice evening, or yeah, nice day, depending where you're joining us from. Thank you. And yeah, bye-bye.
Yeah, try and move it so it doesn't.
Yeah, it's a bit difficult with the background.